I feel like one of the main draws anime has is character design. Many of them are so sleek and stylish and sexy that they stick in your head for a while. They inspire us in unique ways, and we often visualize their striking forms. The ways they're conceptualized are also quite fascinating. The whole process is exactly that, a process. But what if I told you that these cool designs were actually crucial to the writing of these characters? From their personalities, to their little quirks, to even their character arcs. There's a lot that goes into these designs because in animation, it is so crucial to establish a character's personality through movement and look. Now, one would rightfully assume that personality is handled by the writing aspect of things. Their dialogue, usual tone of voice, character arc, that's mostly shouldered by the writing department, right? Well, it can be, sure, but that's not something that I would recommend, because animation is a visual medium, so doesn't it make sense to utilize those same visuals to get across more of the character, instead of with just what they're saying? If you're writing a book, then words are your only tool to get across how a character acts, feels, and even what they look like. But there's so many more tools with animation. Little touches can be added in that can immediately establish important details about a character, and this leads back to my tidbit of character design. The way a character is designed is crucial to their personality because these two should fit together in some way. Darker colors are usually associated with brooding and dark backstories, whereas lighter colors can showcase the opposite. Body types can get across a character's lifestyle, and even a character's hair can come into play, as certain styles are often associated with various character types, like how ponytails can be associated with a tomboy or an athletic female. Even hair color can be connected to various personality types. A character should look at least a little bit how they act. Of course, there are ways to make this work on the contrary, but it is very tricky. Doable, but tricky. A good exercise is to guess a character's personality, or at least aspects of it, just by looking at still images of them. I'll use Gurren Lagann here because I'm biased. Kamina's design, with him lacking a shirt, packing muscles and tattoos, and often sporting a cape and sword, seem to invoke a strong rebel, one who can easily slip into the role of a leader due to his striking glasses and cape flowing in the wind. Simon's design is much more reserved, with baggier clothes, goggles, and more tools, as well as having a smaller stature. Just by his design, Simon seems to be a little less heroic and experienced, almost showcasing a form of naivete. He looks similar to what an artificer would look in fantasy, so one could assume maybe he's an engineer, or in this case, a mecha pilot. Yoko's design, with her long red ponytail, gigantic sniper, and more revealing outfit, give way to a tomboy with experience in a fight, someone who's sporty, mobile, and perhaps a bit hot-headed. Of course, these are very simplified versions of their personalities, but these are the kind of things that one can gather just by looking at designs. The other important part of a design, which also ties into their character, is how they move. Looking back at the Gurren Lagann trio, it's also pretty easy to imagine how they'll look in motion as well. Aspects like Yoko's hair and lighter color make her seem like a much more mobile character, as these things look very quick. The hair is something that can flow very gracefully in the wind, which looks great during active movement. Kamina's cloak and glasses allow him to look very striking while doing heroic and commanding poses, casting an imposing silhouette. Simon's design gives him much shorter hair and clothes. Coupled with his goggles, it would make the most sense seeing him commanding a mecha rather than being out in the fray. And I know I said this previously, and it still might sound weird, but there is an importance to animating a character's personality. To get across someone's personality just with how they move takes a lot of work, but by putting in that work, it makes all the difference, and it really helps these characters feel more alive and three-dimensional. Sure, a character can be well written and complex, but if they move like cardboard, more of the effort is being shouldered by the writing and voice acting. You won't be remembering things they did or how they did them, only what they said and how they acted. And even if those movements are seemingly unique, if they're similar amongst multiple characters, then a lot of the individualism is lost. And when I'm talking about a character's individual movement, I don't mean something that just happens occasionally. I mean their general way of movement, what they're comfortable with, how they act in normal situations. Anime often uses exaggeration when it comes to expressions, changing body proportions or adding extra flair to really get across an emotion. But if that emotion isn't wholly unique to a character, or at least feel like it is, then what's the point? Even if it's an effective bit of animation, if it feels like it could belong to multiple characters, especially in the same show, then the character's personality is not what's being animated, just simply how they're feeling. And while that might sound like enough, it can always be better. Now, strictly in terms of animation, there's a lot more personality in characters like Mob from Mob Psycho 100 and Ryuko Matoi from Kill la Kill than many others from anime, because they move and express in distinct and memorable ways. Mob usually retains his expressionless face due to his powers, even when something very exciting is happening. While he might be doing something comedic or fast-paced, his expression typically remains the same, as does his posture. He's typically upright and can look oblivious. Because he has psychic powers, he can even keep this posture during fights, and the only time any of this effect changes is due to his powers breaking free. Otherwise, he has his own distinct movements, expressions, and positions. Compare this to Reagan, who's more expressive, bouncy. His movements and faces are a lot more exaggerated. He often talks with his hands, something that other characters don't do at all, and his body is often moving and twisting more, his back arching and his head craning around, unlike Mob, who's often more static. The two move and react in very different ways, further separating them from each other and making them wholly unique. Ryuko is very much a rebel character, but she does have two sides to her, an aggressive side and a softer side. So whenever she's aggressive, the lines are a lot harsher, she's more angular, and there's more emphasis on her anger or shouting. And when she's softer, her lines are more curved, and her proportions can be changed to appear a lot cuter. In motion, her angrier movements are more jagged and quick, while her softer ones can be smoother, fitting the changes to her artwork. It's an example of the design more subtly changing to accentuate a character's emotion, compared to her friend Mako, a much more comedic character whose line work and design is often a lot softer and freer, since she defies the laws of physics so often. Speaking of comedy, I want to go back to Gurren Lagann to bring up Liron, a character I haven't mentioned yet. His design is starkly different from Kamina Simone Yoko's, with a much different looking face and lankier proportions. This allows him to be more expressive in different ways, waving his body around and stretching his face in ways that add to the comedy of the character, as he is primarily a comedic character. These movements are nothing like what the others do, making his scenes really stand out in comparison. The others are often more serious, so it makes sense for Liron to be less grounded, which makes him even funnier. Even when people react to Liron, their movements and reactions are still more grounded. Compare this to something like Nishijou. Though it is still good, funny, and incredibly well animated, all the characters kind of move the same. Sure, they have their own reactions, but everyone reacts so over the top to such an extreme level that it's understandable for most other characters to also react in the same way another one does. None of their movements feel unique or even animated to their personalities, and though they are different, it does make them feel less personable. Most of them are so energetic and crazy that the comedy more comes from their over-the-top reactions than their characters. And yes, that's the joke, I get it. The show is still funny, and honestly this isn't really much of a downgrade as this really fits the joke, but it is an example of not distinguishing movements between characters. When every character or multiple characters react or move too similar, then pieces of their personality can get muddled. But when these characters have more distinct movements that not only fit their design, but also their personality, then it all comes together in a very cohesive package. Since this is a visual medium, it makes sense to use these visuals to tell a character's story and what they're all about. This way, rather than the writing and voice acting being the sole way to deliver a character's personality, someone can get an idea just on how they move and react. And then, when you add all the other pieces, this allows a character to feel that much stronger and more memorable. They can stick with an audience, they have a greater staying power, and they can impact us that much more. And when art can make a bigger impact on us, I think it makes all the better for it. If you guys enjoyed this video, please go ahead and click that subscribe button. And if you want to be notified for future content, also go ahead and click that bell as well. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.